Well, New Yorkers braced the heat and took to the polls yesterday to cast their picks for New York City mayor. The results still need to be certified, but in a stunning upset, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic socialist with little name recognition at the start of this race, declared victory over former Governor Andrew Cuomo, making him the likely Democratic nominee for mayor in November. You see the numbers on your screen. Joining us now, Politico reporter Nick Reisman. And Nick, welcome to you. First, everybody kept saying we won't know for days, even weeks, because of ranked choice voting, but it seemed pretty resounding last night, and the results came in, and we had a winner early.
That's right. It was pretty close to as definitive as it was going to get without Mamdani getting over that 50% threshold in round one. But what was fascinating about this was the confidence that the Cuomo campaign was heading into this evening, even though they acknowledged that Mamdani was doing quite well in the early vote when a lot of his younger supporters were expected to turn out. The Cuomo people did expect to see a big surge in turnout on Tuesday, but as we've been mentioning, it was extraordinarily hot on Tuesday. People did turn out to the polls, but clearly not in the way that Andrew Cuomo wanted. And Zohran Mamdani really has shocked the political establishment. Many of the people in that political establishment did back his rival, Andrew Cuomo. So we're seeing right now just a political shockwave that's resounding across New York and really across the country at this point with Mamdani's win.
This was a substantial rise for Mamdani. I mean, literally, you go back maybe 6 weeks ago, and polls were like this in favor of Cuomo. And for him to pull this off, I mean, what does that say about his campaign and I guess where the city feels like it needs to go?
Well, it says a lot about how the electorate may be changing in New York City. You know, what Andrew Cuomo tried to do with this campaign was he tried to reassemble the coalition that brought Eric Adams to City Hall 4 years ago, right? Where he had support from black voters, from Jewish New Yorkers, from working class people. And a lot of people dismissed Mamdani's chances simply because he had younger voters who tend to not turn out to the polls, college-educated voters who tend to be a little bit smaller than non-college educated people. So there was this expectation that Mamdani was simply going to be consigned to where a lot of hard left candidates in prior elections have been. However, it does appear that he turned out a different set of voters, people who have never voted or participated before in a municipal election. And that is a big change. You know, he's going to be the first South Asian mayor of, if he actually wins, he'll be the first mayor of South Asian descent in New York City. And he may have activated a lot of new people into the political process as a result of this election.
Andrew Cuomo's got to be in a little bit of a state of shock. But what went wrong for the former governor? Were the scandals too much for him to overcome?
That's very possible. You know, he was leading in a lot of polls, and obviously he still does have a lot of support. You know, there is going to be a lot of questions about, what this means about the Me Too movement and the wrongdoing that he's been accused of, which he, of course, denies. But it's also kind of worth pointing out here that his campaign was kind of a playbook that we have seen him run really for the last decade or so, where he's poured a lot of cash into TV ads and into mailers, and he got all these endorsements from, key political figures like former President Bill Clinton and Congressman James Clyburn. But that may be a campaign model that is starting to die out. And what we saw with Mamdani, which was largely digital first, run on social media platforms like TikTok with these very short, slickly produced videos, that may be the future, and we may be seeing it really come to the forefront now.
Let me ask you to kind of project ahead here. What does November look like? How do you think he stacks up against Mayor Adams right now?
That is going to be a very interesting question going forward, because obviously Mayor Eric Adams has his own political baggage going forward. It's going to be very tough for a non-Democratic candidate to win in a very Democratic city like New York. Eric Adams is still a Democrat, but he is running on this independent ballot line. He is likely going to slam Mamdani on his prior support for defunding the police. There's going to be a lot of accusations about anti-Semitism in the general election. But with Mamdani having the backing of Democratic voters after a Democratic primary, it's going to be tough for the mayor to actually pull the general election win off.
All right, political reporter Nick Reisman. Nick, thanks for taking some time for us. We appreciate it.
Good to be here.
All right. And stay with CBS News New York for all of your election coverage. You can find results at cbsnewyork.com.